All right, I made a couple mistakes in the garden, and just because it is getting towards the middle to end of fall doesn't mean it's the end of it, but this right here, this is a mistake. And not only are we gonna fix it, but we're gonna make it better and produce more from this mistake. I can't remember off the top of my head if I've shown you this. If I have, then I apologize, but if not, this is gonna be new. And if you're new to the channel, you'll see why. So we have these 4 beds here, and this bed had tomatoes in it, and we went ahead and pulled them all out. And this was the whole thing we were talking about before, where they weren't really gonna produce much more, and we're getting really close. And I wanted to go ahead and get something in the ground that was definitely gonna produce or had a higher chance of producing for us in the fall, into winter. And that's what we did. So we pulled out all the tomatoes, and you can see I haven't gone through and gotten rid of them yet. They're just sitting there. We're gonna go through and pick them all, and all the green tomatoes, and we'll save those and fry them and ripen the ones that can and all that good stuff. But we went in and we did some replacements. This is the tray of kale and bok choy that we grew. And this tray is great, but it can get overgrown quick. So I wanted to go ahead and pull out every other row to kind of give the other ones space to grow. And they did, but I took the bok choy and I just made a simple row going down this one here. And you can see that they're all there. We got some pretty good rains last night and they're doing well. And then we came back in and we seeded some lettuce. And I kind of had a messed up moment with the lettuce. You know, I got this cedar, the Varmus cedar. If you're interested in it, which I highly recommend, it's in the link below in the Amazon store. And you definitely go check that out and get one for yourself if it's something you're interested in. And I'm still learning the process. I got it late last year and I got to seed some with it, but not a lot. So now I'm putting different seeds in it and kind of figuring out how it goes. And one thing I learned is that those lettuce seeds don't really do well with it. So I put it on the longest setting and I'll show you what happened. It's not as bad as it was, but you can see that essentially what happened is it just dumped all of the seeds right here. And what I've been doing is I've been coming out and you see we have this clump here. Now from this seed to roughly this one is about the minimum space I would give them. So all of these right here can come out. So what I'll do is I've just been coming out and I scoop them all out. And this is a tedious, delicate process. But I don't really want to disturb the roots. And then I'll come out and set them down, and you can see how we've replanted them going down the line here. And so we've done a pretty good job making a row here. These seedlings that weren't doing good are turning the corner now here. These are regular romaine. This is Tom Thumb Bib lettuce, and this is Jericho romaine, I believe. And I'm gonna just fill the gaps with these since they're already sprouted, going from here to there. And I did the same in the row behind it where I just put a couple in. Now, I mean, let's be honest here. I'm not looking for like a banger spring harvest of lettuce, but I am looking for a harvest of lettuce for sure. And by removing those plants, we will be able to ensure that we get some kind of harvest. Now, it's not as perfect as if we put seeds, and now I've learned my lesson. So I'll be adding seeds to it. But we're gonna go ahead and take these out, and I'll show you how I separate them and then replant them very, very carefully. And all the ones that I replanted in this bed have seemed to do well so far. It's been about 4 days. And then we got a good rain too. We're supposed to get rain tomorrow. So this will just help further it. So we have moist soil, first of all, and then we have incoming rain, second of all. So we have continuous moisture coming into these beds. Not to mention we have cooler weather so it won't dry out as bad. So that's gonna be your first hurdle. But what I wanna do is I'm gonna go through and kind of fill out this other row, and I'll show you how I do it. So one bad thing about this 4x8 bed is it's a little bit, to get into the middle is a little bit difficult, but it's not bad. So I'm just gonna make a quick divot and I'll space them out to about how I want them to be spaced out. And just go from there. I'm gonna try and go right on down the line. Hopefully we can squeeze this out. So we're gonna put, looks like 5 plants in. Now when I pulled these apart, they came as a clump, so I'm going to leave them as a clump. I don't really want to disturb the roots as little as possible, and I know I've already disturbed them, but this isn't the end of the world. So we'll just drop them in, and then try not to disturb the roots. I can't stress that enough, and that should work. Now, for instance, we have this clump here, and I'm going to do the best I can to fill out the rest. And these are a clump, but I'm going to try and just drop them and then see how that just came apart. And we have 2 seedlings here, so they should be able to, one of them should hold tight through the rest. And then since we dropped them, they kind of came apart, and it's going to work out perfectly. You just want to make sure you get that soil in there nice and compacted and surrounding those roots. I'm over here, and this is the original hole, and you just really do want to fill it in as best as possible. Try not to get any mulch on anything left over, and then you just leave it. And what we'll do is we'll come through once we get confident. Once things get about maybe this size, then we'll start trimming them apart. And we won't be pulling or anything. We'll just simply, like for this cluster right here, we would just snip at the base and let the largest, healthiest one grow. And I mean, we're gonna have gaps. Like right here is a gap, but it is what it is. I mean, you know, it's not gonna be perfect. But that's gonna finish out that row. Unfortunately, I'm looking, and I did this other one the other day, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. If I can come across any more, or I actually did seed this row, and I think I started over here, so if they clumped up there, then we'll just do the same thing. Now at this point, we're about 3.5 weeks from our first frost. It's a downhill slope, and we are completely, well, we're not completely prepared. We're going to be prepared to cover this bed if needed. So we'll put everything in place for that. And if it needs to be covered to get through a light frost or something, just to kind of keep things moving in that right direction and keep that morning rebound heat on it, then we'll definitely do it. But I had the same, not as bad, but a slight issue in the greenhouse with my spinach. You can see we're getting morning sun in here right now, and the spinach, I believe I double seeded it. I can't remember if it was this one or another one. If you guys have been watching the videos, and I'm sure you're aware of it, but at this point, things are really popping up. We're getting true leaves, and I believe like this one right here is new. So we'll have a couple new ones coming up. But we also have gaps, which is to be anticipated with any of this. You know, we're gonna have gaps in these, and I can come up to these clusters, and instead of plucking them or ruining them, I can try and separate them. As long as I leave a main plant intact, then it should not be an issue. We just want to really disturb one of them if possible. Now this one, since I was showing you, we'll go ahead and do this one here. We've got 2 plants. They both look good. This one looks better. And the only reason why I say it looks better is because there's no curling or anything, but I mean, it can grow out. It's not a big deal. But we'll come through, and we're going to separate these 2. So I'm going to come in. Hopefully the root system's not that big. And just pay attention to any kind of pressure as you pull it out. And you see I got the root. So let's turn the camera a little bit as I talk to myself. Don't mind me as I talk to myself. And just do the same thing, you know. Give it a little bit of space. This root goes a little bit deeper, so I'm going to try and fit in without curling it at all. And voila. Now I know some of you might be thinking, what the hell, Ben? That's obvious. But you know, a lot of people are scared to do stuff like that because you'll read like, don't do this no matter what. And I've done it a lot. And the first time I did it was with like zinnia seedlings. I just grabbed one and put it in the ground. Guess what? I had a full-blown zinnia plant that year. And I mean, it's worth a shot, right? Like, what are you going to lose? If you don't take this chance, what are you going to lose? You're either going to cut one and remove it completely, or you can separate it and maybe have another plant, probably have another plant, or not have any plants. You can pick which one you want. But I'm going to go through and do the rest of these. Like I have this clump here. So I'll do the same thing, and I'm going to just kind of spread them out because I want this to be a whole bed of spinach. And I'm pretty confident that we've gotten the germination that we want at this point, or that we're going to get at this point within reason. We may get a little bit more, but this will definitely let us fill it in. And if something comes up, then we can make that decision. I do think that we have enough to kind of fill out all the gaps in here. And we're just making it stretch even further. All right, I went through, and it's kind of hard to tell because everything's small, but I separated them. You can tell here, remember there was like 5 or 6 and there's only 2 now, and I'll still move that one. But there's a couple things I wanted to show you. One, you're definitely going to make some mistakes. So this is the only one that I accidentally ripped the roots off of. No big deal. Just leave it, it'll break down. Been going through and getting some weeds out as well. But you can see now we've got pretty good rows going on in here. As they get bigger, you'll definitely be able to tell. But this is really the time to do it before they really start to get set in their ways. But there is this one situation here. So you see we've got 1, 2, 3. And now I can move this over. I could scoop it up and move it over here like I wanted to kind of split the difference. Because this will make all the difference in the world. If this and this grow close together, they're going to affect each other, and we probably won't get as good of a yield off of them. But instead of scooping it up, what I want to do is I'll just make a little channel here. Kind of move it to the side, and then I'm just going to slide it over, gentle. And the trick is, you know, after you've pulled up a couple of these and you see how deep the roots are, you'll know how far they go. I mean, these roots on these spinach plants are roughly that long. So I'm going down, I went down that far. So if the root was to here as a measurement and I went down this far, that means I'm just kind of pushing that root over. And that way I'm not damaging the root, because you got to think, these are really delicate roots right now. And I mean, it's tricky because you have really delicate roots or you have really established roots. And this time of year, because it's going to get cold sooner than later, we definitely don't want to disturb the roots too much. And if you have a big plant with big roots, you could rip off a lot of roots, and then it has to recover. It won't die necessarily, but it will have to recover. This way, if we just kind of scoot it or just kind of move the clump of dirt, it's just like taking it out of your pots and replanting. I don't really see any difference to it. Just don't go crazy with the root system. That's all. Be very delicate. These are babies. These are our little babies. So like this one right here, there's 2. I don't really feel like I can safely move one, and I don't want to eliminate the plant because I have pretty good spacing between these 3. So whichever one gets true leaves first, the other one will get whacked. And the trick is now, especially in the greenhouse, because it doesn't get rain, we need to water it and just really drench the soil to get those roots to reactivate and keep them cool through the day. And this is a totally different scenario out here. You got to think, it was 54 degrees last night. It's going to be 78 degrees today. That means it'll probably be about 85 or so in here today. So we really want to keep them cool. I'm going to let them sit for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back out probably in about an hour or so and try and time it when the heat really starts to heat up, and then just water it on down and let it go. And then that way you can take this and make a full bed out of a mistake you made. Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean it's the end of the garden or the end of your production for a year. So we've done this with rutabagas, tomatoes for sure. Let's just keep it the fall. I've done it with radishes, not successfully though. Lettuces, broccolis, Brussels sprouts. Well, you know the Brussels sprout story. That's a whole different thing. Not carrots at all. Doesn't really work well for carrots. And cabbages. I've done it for all of those. And those are really my main crops for the winter. Onions typically do okay as well, but they're pretty easy to get straight. And the thing with onions is their roots are so strong, you're really not going to break them. And if you do, it's okay because they're going to regrow them. But typically when you plant onions, if you're planting like seedlings, you don't have to worry about it because they're really easy. You know, it's a single plant, whatever. This is really applies for direct seeding crops, which I do a lot of direct seeding, and I love direct seeding because I don't have to do anything. Put it in, water it, let it grow, enjoy it.
Goodbye.